Good morning. You're listening to FloridaDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Benjamin Liebert, the president of Shaw's residential business. Benjamin, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Kemp. It's great to be with you here this morning.
Yeah, it's good to catch up with you. You've been pretty busy, but in a lot of different places in the last week. For those people who don't know who Benjamin is, we did a focus on leadership on you in the May issue of last year. You've been at Shaw for about a year and a half, came from the appliance business. You've just recently been named president of Shaw's residential business. Let's start with last week. You were with the NFA. Tell us a little bit about the feedback you got from that meeting.
Yeah, always a great event for us twice a year to be with the NFA executive team and that entire group and check in on how we're doing, what they're seeing in the marketplace, what's working, what's not working. And I think leaving that event down in Florida, it seems that everybody has the same approach and the same mindset, which is control what you can control, focus on delivering value to the customer or the consumer. And there's still a lot of business out there despite all of the noise that we hear in the marketplace and on the news. So I left pretty excited because, that group is quite advanced in how they perform in their market, how they create value for their customers, and then they really know who they are and who they aren't. And so we talked a lot about staying true to who you are, staying true to what your values are, and staying true to what you're good at, and the rest should take care of itself.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the NFA, 42, 43 or so very successful retailers, and they're kind of the best of the best at retail. And I wasn't able to make that meeting. I had to go to coverings, but I understand from the folks that were there that there were several members that were up double digits. So that's encouraging to hear, right?
Yeah, it's surprising to me, actually, that there were a handful of retailers who were up, upwards of 20% in the first quarter. I don't think that's necessarily, indication of the market and everyone coast to coast, but I think it's nice to hear that there are some pockets of action and pockets of life, especially in remodeling right now. There's a lot of people that need flooring. So nice to see that, some of our retailers are taking advantage of that.
All right. We mentioned the change in your title. That's a little bit of a restructuring. Explain to our listeners what's going on there.
Yeah, and some of it is a little bit semantics, but some of it is very thoughtful in nature. And when I joined Shaw a year and a half ago, we talked a lot about where Shaw was going and where we thought the market was going and where we felt like we needed to be. And one of the principles that we've had really for the last 24 months is we've got to find ways to get closer to our customers, to adapt our business to the way they want to work, the way they want to be served. And one of those pillars in that exercise is that, you really have to have a business unit that can see itself from top to bottom, all of the angles, all the nooks and crannies, so to speak. And so, this last move was really just another step in the iteration of moving our business closer to our residential customers. And in doing that now, manufacturing slides over and works directly under my purview. But I will tell you, before we were working in a shared service model, so it's not a scenario where it wasn't working. It's just this iterative approach to try and get the business aligned. So I think this word alignment is super important so that you can control your destiny. And right now, with the setup that we have here, I joke, I'm fully accountable. So I've got to look in the mirror. If we're not doing something well, then that's my fault. And rest assured that we're going to be working really, really hard to get this business lined up to be a great partner and serve our customers as best we possibly can.
You have an MBA from Emory University, and they call these structures SBUs, Strategic Business Units. So you've moved operations up under your purview. So it makes a lot of sense. One of the main reasons I wanted to talk today is, this word uncertainty, this word tariff. Every time I talk to almost anybody, they want to know, what the future might bring. And I was just curious if you could tell us a little bit about how Shaw set themselves up for success in light of some of this tariff fear and uncertainty.
Great question. And I think it's a question we're all asking ourselves and we're all discussing amongst ourselves, including with our customers. Even last week was RFCI as well. So I know there was a group of members there having, similar discussions around what is it that we see? What are the signals in the marketplace? And buzzwords like uncertainty and stability and predictability, I think, are at the center. I come back to the original comment earlier, right? We can't control some of these things. And so whether there's a 10% tariff or a 20% tariff or 130% tariff, those are out of our control right now. And so I think it's always good in these types of environments to get back to what we do well, be as consistent and as stable as possible. And so a little bit how we're thinking about that, I want to introduce this word balance. And as I think this balanced approach is something that's going to be really, really important in the environment that we're in. And when I say balance, when I think about balance, it's really about using the full strength of our organization. And that starts with our robust supply chain, whether it be domestic supply chain or sourced supply chain from many parts of the world. I think we're actually much more diversified than many people realize. And, we are making tons of investments right here domestically over the last 5 years, over $1 billion of capital investment in U.S. manufacturing. 1 billion. It's a big number. And I'm not sure that there's another manufacturer out there making those types of scaled investments in the United States. One of those components of balance is going to be really leaning into domestic production. And so in addition to the investments we've taken in carpet over the last several years, both fiber production and the tufting manufacturing, we're also investing in resilient production, over a $90 million investment in our resilient factories right here outside of Dalton, Georgia, up here in Ringgold. And that's actually going to double our capacity in LVT. You pair that in those investments with investments in hardwood that already existed domestically here, and you partner those with a really robust sourcing strategy abroad. And thankfully, last 4 or 5 years, we felt like this was not the end of the discussion around tariffs and this idea that we're going to have to build a resilient supply chain. And so over the last 5 years, we have been working diligently to diversify our geographic footprint across the world. And thankfully, we're prepared for this. And so I think it's also going to be a big part of this balanced approach that we're going to need to have. And I think maybe the third part of this balanced approach is this idea that we play the big game and we play the long game. And I think the ownership structure of our company allows us to do that. By the big game, I mean, we can see the bigger picture. We don't need to micromanage transaction by transaction. Let's keep our eyesight broad and big on where we want to go. And then let's play the long game. We're not racing month to month and quarter to quarter, so we can take these investments as long as we believe they're going to pay off and have ROI. And I think if you roll all this balance together, what that means is we believe we're in a position to provide a great bit of stability and dependability for our retail customers and our builder customers as well.
Well, that sounds like you guys have got a good plan, and you do source from all over the world, and I'm sure you're monitoring what effect tariffs might have on that. It's good to catch up with you, and thanks for spending time with our listeners. Again, I've been talking to Benjamin Liebert, the president of Shaw's residential business, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.